Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is special. Today is special because we have in the studio with us Sharon and Emilio Grant. Sharon is the founder and CEO of Oasis of Serenity Counseling and Consulting Services, where she empowers individuals and couples to reach their full potential through coaching, training, and counseling services. She holds a master's degree in professional counseling from Argosy University and is a licensed professional counselor, marriage and personal development coach, and certified prepare and reach trainer and facilitator. Sharon is also an independent certified trainer and speaker and a disc trainer and consultant with the Maxwell Leadership Team. Sharon is a United States Marine Corps veteran, breast cancer survivor, and a wife of 15 years in a healthy marriage to Emilio Grant, who is a retired Air Force Master Sergeant of 25 years and Air Force medic. Emilio provided oversight and leadership to departments within the healthcare medical field settings. Sharon and Emilio are published co-authors in a book anthology, Couples Determined to Making Marriage Great. In their chapter, Knitted Together but Not Perfect, they share their experience of tragedy as a blended family, which prompted a lot of distress and disease in their marriage. Sharon has contributed to Upskill magazine on topics related to healthy relationships. I know, listen, I know you want to see them, but just let me give you a little bit more, okay? Sharon and Emilio, when they are not working or spending time with family, they are active at their local church in ministry. And when they are not with other family members, they spend time saying, I love you, and hugging each other very often. I know you want to meet Sharon and Emilio. You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
we're glad to be
Glad to be
here.
here.
We are so excited to have you. Actually, you're the first ever couple we are having on the show. How cool is this?
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, we're the first. Wonderful.
We are so glad to have you. We are so glad to have you. Let me just, what makes your couple unique?
Wow.
What makes us as a couple?
Yes.
What makes us as a couple unique? You go ahead.
Well, one of the things that make us unique is we have learned to work together despite our personality differences. You made a reference earlier about me being a disc consultant facilitator. We had to learn, I think it's probably midway, that we have quite different personalities. And so there was some challenges in that we had to figure out each other from studying each other how to make our differences assets versus liabilities in our marriage. Because oftentimes you feel like your spouse just doesn't get me. But I feel like I have studied him enough. We have both taken our DISC assessments, and we are very much aware and in tune with who we are as a couple and how we show up, our quirks and all, in the
So,
marriage relationship.
right. Talking about learning and studying your spouse and understanding that person so you can live harmoniously and happily. Apart from taking a disc assessment, how long does it take to like actually understand your spouse after you've taken the assessment? Let's say there is a couple that has no idea how these things work, and they're like, how long does it take before I get to understand this person and live happily with this person? That takes about how long?
I don't know if I can put a time on because that depends so much on the individual. I think what's most important is kind of is just like when you say you're raising kids, it talks about having a great creating a stable or a great platform for them as you grow the kids up. And I guess it's the same thing with when you're in a marriage, during that time that you're dating, during the time when you're trying to learn each other, um, you kind of see things that out of, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be okay with that, or that's real great for me, and have to make a decision. Is that something I am going to deal with or tolerate as we move forward. If it's not, let's address it. And maybe this is not for us. And if you address it, then you keep in mind that you're not changing. If you're not going to accept it, then don't get going there saying, okay, I see this. Well, maybe I can change that person. Maybe I can change this. Big mistake. If you're going to accept it, you accept it and you keep it moving. But if you go in there thinking it's okay, but I'm going to try and change it, no. We each our own individual and someone else can't change you. So I think it starts from the beginning when you start dating, just kind
Wow.
of learning each other as you move forward.
Did Sharon want to add anything to that? I saw you nodding like, yes.
Well, I wouldn't put a time frame on it either, but what I will say is taking that time to study them. Like when we're in college, we take time to study our material, learn it. You probably do better if you did not cram, right? So just sitting back, taking time, spending time with them, asking questions, have in-depth conversations about them, which we did that on the front end while we were dating. That's why dating is so important. You get to know each other that way as well. I felt like when we got married, I knew him, but I did not probably understand him as I do now. So we've been married 15 years. It didn't take me 15 years to understand him. I think what that DISC assessment did for me was it just clicked like, oh, okay, so that's why he does that. Okay, so that's why she responds that way when I try to tell her this. So it just helped us to better, it just illuminated for
Hmm.
us how we're wired,
Right.
how we are, and we
Right.
are different.
And the topic of today's discussion is leadership. What's love got to do with it? When you read this, and I told you I was hoping you would be our guest, and you saw this topic, what was your initial reaction, Sharon?
I said, this is very interesting. Where's she going with this? So it got my attention.
It got your attention.
Mhm.
Emilia, what did you think?
I I the same. I wasn't sure exactly what direction we was going in, but I said, okay, let's go for it. I mean, I love the song. What's love got to do with it? So hey, let's let's go for it. Let's see what it's about.
When we look at leadership as a concept and leadership in the home, and I know that there are different types of leadership and different types of leadership styles and all of that fun stuff, Sharon, what type of leadership would be most suitable for a couple like a husband and a wife? What type of leadership should be implemented to ensure that the home is thriving the way it has to thrive?
Well, one where it's a partnership where both partners can share. That would be the democracy. Servant leadership, where we're both making it a point to serve each other. It's not always about me. It's about the two of us as a unified unit being one. So
Mhm.
that's what my answer would be.
Yeah, I'll have to say, definitely servant leadership. Got to be able to serve each other,
Mm.
and kind of be able to look at your partner and say that not so much about for yourself, not what you say, not what I say is that's how it's gonna. That's not how it's gonna be, because you do have a partner, and it's great when you can share ideas and have somebody you can share ideas and share thoughts with and make decisions with, and bring them into that so they can provide that for. That's part of the reason having a partner. I mean, having a team. And I think being a servant leader is definitely a good one that to use doing in your relationship. Utilize the servant leadership, that type of leadership.
And you talked about partnership and servant leadership, and some people of faith, and I understand you're a person of faith as well, talk about the husband being the head of the home. Like, how does this whole headship situation play with the partnership and servant leadership that you are bringing us into? How does that play, Emilio?
Well, it kind of being the head of the household. That's a great title, but if you if you want to be the head, you want someone to follow the head. The head has to know where the direction is coming from. They have to be following the true leader, which is God. So if I'm putting God first and I'm following what God puts out for us, then whoever's following behind me will see that and say, okay, that's someone you're on the right, he's in the right direction. So we make it easy for everybody else to follow that head of the household. Mm-hmm. But in that way, also realizing that as the head, also willing to do whatever I need to do to support the rest of the household. And I can, even including the kids, set that example so that even the kids can see, okay, this is what dad is doing. So I can set a good example even for the kids as a head.
Wow. Wow. You mentioned about setting the example even for the kids and just being that leader so that they can see what true leadership looks like. Sharon, what's the place of positive role modeling in a relationship like this? What's the place of positive role modeling? Because like we know it, leadership is influence, and that's just basically what it is. Would you want to speak into that, Sharon?
Well, I think we are our children's we are their first role model. We are their first example of adulthood, servant leadership, being valued. We have to set that example for them. So they're looking at us, mom and dad, to see how to do various things and make decisions. So we have to make sure that we're showing up and setting that positive example so that when they leave our house and they go out into the community, that they, also it's like dominoes. No, it's a gift that keeps on giving. We set a good example for them. They can go out and set a good example for their peers, and it can kind of flow like that. But it's very important that we as the adults are doing the things that we need to do to show up and be that positive role model for them so they can relate.
Does that work spouse to spouse, like husband to wife, wife to husband, like positive role modeling? Does that work as well?
Yes. I mean, we have to be positive role models to each other.
To each other. Oh, yes.
Yeah, Emilio was about to say something.
No, I said yes to each other, most definitely. Have to be positive role models to each other. And that, that comes along with learning each other. Learning each other likes, dislikes, and accepting some of the twerks that may be there, and not trying to change the individual.
And Sharon, you're into personal development. How does that play in a marriage relationship, in the love relationship, in the couple relationship? Personal development, how does that play?
That is so important, because we have to make sure that we are looking at ourselves in our marriage. How is our spouse experiencing us in our marriage? So first of all, you got to be able to take responsibility for your part in the marriage relationship, right? And how you show up. So if you realize that there's some things about yourself that you need to address, work on, make some changes, when you hold up that mirror and you look at yourself, it's your responsibility to put the work in to make those changes for yourself, number one, but also for the betterment of the marriage relationship. So personal development is very important in your marriage relationship. Wow. That's your first relationship is with yourself. So this is a big investment here I'm making in myself. I want to make sure that I'm showing up as the best version of myself, for myself and for my husband, for my family.
Oh, yeah.
So are you telling us that personal development is one of the ways to safeguard against marriage breakdown and divorce? Can you make that assertion?
I would say that's a very important part of it. That would probably be half of it, because in a marriage, it takes two for the marriage to flow and be successful. So my part would be how I'm showing up. Am I working on myself? And then the other part of that would be relationship being successful, be if Emilio is showing up as the best version of himself, and is he also working on himself? Because none of us are perfect, right?
Right.
So we all should be striving to become better versions of ourselves throughout the course of our marriage.
Have to agree. You got to always come best version of yourself. Kind of looking at yourself first, and work on that so that person can see, you have to see yourself as that, bring that positivity to see yourself in a good way, and not necessarily point at the other person to try to fix an issue, because a lot of times you go to you get into issues because you actually not looking, thinking, trying to blame the other individual, and not really take a step back and say, you know what am I doing to contribute to the issues that may or may not be having.
Wow.
And then once you
What
look at,
am I doing?
yeah, what am I doing and what I need to work on to cause whatever is causing the problem. And once you find that out and figure that and work on that first, then you be again better version of yourself, and you can add influence to your marriage.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I was just being curious, like, did you want to share with us some instances that you maybe actually saw that because you developed yourself, you were able to handle certain situations in a better way, or yeah, just stuff that happens in the relationship. Anybody can start, anybody that, yeah.
Well, I have a story for Emilia, but I can't tell that story. So I would tell my story. So, in my, so this is our second marriage. The full disclosure, this is our second marriage, each one of us. And
Oh.
so my personal development journey actually started as a result of that divorce from that first relationship. So it was at that moment in my 30s, anyway, in that time that I held up the mirror, and that's the wrong time, not 30s.
No, all right.
So I held up the mirror to look at myself and say, hey, Sharon, you may look nice on the outside, have a nice figure, you look good from your outward appearance, but there are some things about you on the inside, because what's on the inside come out, right? So you have to really do some deep search and figure out, who do you want to be? What do you not like about yourself? And I actually looked in the mirror one day and I said that I don't like you. I don't like you. And I think we all should come to that pivotal point in our life where we say, hey, this is how you're showing up. These are changes you need to make. And then start that journey of self-discovery, that self-work, that personal development work, so that you can be healthy, whole by yourself, so you can join with someone else who is healthy and whole and has put the work in as well. So
Wow.
that's what I would probably say.
Well, healthy, whole by yourself. And then you can join with somebody who has put in the work as well.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. Emilio, would you have a situation where you had that transparency with yourself, and have you ever had such a situation happen in your life, and is there anything you would want to share with us as far as looking into the mirror and just seeing yourself and telling yourself, it begins with me? Have you had such situations happen?
I can't think of the exact time frame, but like Sharon said, this is both our second marriage, and
Oh.
so one thing I learned, what thing happened, things that happened in the first marriage was that developed something which I guess we call it the silent treatment. You get angry at someone and you stop talking, and then it went from maybe a day to 2 days to a week, sometime a month, and that's when I realized at some point when Sharon and I got together, I made a conscious effort. That was always on the forefront when we got into a disagreement, that I was not going to do that silent treatment. I'm going to stay away from that, because it was very easy for me to fall back into that. Very easy. I think I may have slipped up maybe a couple of times though with Sharon, but then she don't allow it. She does not allow that to happen.
So, you got to communicate.
We got to communicate. So I think that was definitely a scenario which I saw myself and said, okay, you know what? I guess I didn't actually look into a mirror, but I looking at myself in that way and realize this is not something I'm going to continue to repeat because it's not healthy and it does not help at
Mm,
all.
mm,
Because
mm.
all you're doing is just holding on to something and it's resonating and it comes up again a month, 2 months later, and you
Yeah.
think it's gone, but you never addressed it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it comes
I,
up in
I,
the form
I
of
like,
resentment.
Form of
uh-huh.
resentment. Yes.
You,
Yes.
you said something, sorry.
I said it comes up in the form of resentment if you don't
Oh,
address it. What
wow.
that thing is.
If you don't
Good.
address what that thing is, it comes up in the form of resentment.
It could
And I
come up.
like, yes, and I like how Emilio said, you have to ask, is it healthy?
Yes.
Is it helping?
Right.
That sounds to me like the key to a happy forever after marriage relationship. Is
Right.
it helping?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it healthy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when I look back at some of the cases we've had to deal with, if that question was just asked, is it healthy? Is it helping?
Mm. Yes.
So much would have been avoided. And
Right.
I'm coming back to you, Sharon, about strategies. Are there tried and proven strategies to guard against marriage breakdown and just ensuring that even though or even if it's not perfect, it's not breaking down and blah, blah, the
You're
word
right.
deteriorating to the point of okay, you go your way. And because I'm like, wait, at first it was like, I want to talk to you all the time, I want to be with you all the
Oh yes. I remember those days. Oh my goodness.
Falling asleep on the phone. Yes.
so are there tried and proven strategies and to safeguard against the marriages breaking down to that place where it's irretrievable?
I think one of the biggest marital breakdowns comes from lack of communication.
Oh.
And well, it's effective communication because the goal of communication is for me to speak, you hear, you to speak, and I hear you. And we're
Mm,
listening for understanding. So if we are communicating, you think about it as a gift that you're giving to your spouse. So
right.
you watch your packaging. Your package is your tone. Are you belittling them? Are you being sarcastic?
Mm,
Are you being loving? So you watch your package, you say your message, your spouse receives your message. But if you don't feel heard in that relationship when you're
mhm,
communicating, because the
mhm.
goal is to be heard, for them to understand you, right? So when you're communicating, if you don't feel heard, that's probably the first layer of the breakdown. You don't feel heard, you don't feel you feel disrespected, um, you don't feel listened to, you feel like you're walking on eggshells. So
Mm.
to me, communication, not being able to communicate, is probably the first layer of that breakdown when the marriage starts deteriorating, is not
Okay.
being able to feel like you're being heard or there's no effective communication.
Are you looking at the four C's already? Because was it the four C's? Yes, four C's. I saw this on your website, and you talked about the four, the four C's of instant positive change in marriage. Is that one of the C's you're looking at already?
Well, communication is a C. And the reason
Yes.
why is I talk about communication a lot is because the couples that I work with, I would probably say 99.9, maybe I'm exaggerating. The issue they come to is they're not able to communicate. They don't feel heard. They don't feel respected. Don't feel validated. It's communication. We can't talk to each other. Somebody is very good at communicating and the other person retreats, but especially if they're communicating in a harsh way,
Right.
the other person retreats. So we have to figure out what the dance is. We want to have a good dance where you step, I step, you step. We want to be in sync with our communication. But if you're talking to me in a way to disrespect me, you're stepping on my toes, right? So now I got to respond because you stepped on my toe and we were dancing, and then the dance is going to kind of be off, not really in sync. So
I might scream because you stepped on my toe, like,
Right.
so communication is very important. And so that is one of the four C's to instant satisfaction in your marriage.
did you
Change,
want to just
positive.
give us all of the C's now? Since we're already in the C's.
So that's the first C. And
Communication, number one.
we can, yeah, first C is communication. The second C is control.
Oh, okay.
There's a difference between controlling and trying to influence your spouse. And if the truth be told, I only have control over Sharon. And Emilio, although he is the head of our household, right? He does not have
Who is
control.
Sharon?
Over
Yes,
Sharon.
over Sharon.
Who is you, right?
Yes.
So you only have control over yourself,
Yourself.
and that's it.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. So, however, my I guess my power would come in with me being able to influence him, or him being able to influence me. We said that leadership is nothing but is influence, right? Nothing more, nothing less. So when he influenced me by saying, Sharon, I like it when you rub my
Rub my
head,
head.
you know,
Ooh,
when we or whatever we're doing, right?
I saw that.
So he's letting me know that this is what I like. He's drawing attention to that behavior that I was engaging in so I can do it more, right? So if I say, hey, Emilio, I like it when I'm working late in the office and I come downstairs and you have already cooked dinner for me.
Right.
I really like that. So he's going to do what? He's going to do more of that. But oftentimes, as couples, we spend a lot of time talking about what our spouse is not doing. And whatever you focus your attention on is going to grow and magnify. Now that thing that you don't like is now magnified. It's a big deal now because now you're not paying attention to the things that they did that was positive. So you're only drawing attention to what they're doing that's wrong. So remember, we have influence, not control. And that third C is
hold on, Sharon. We'll come back. So listen, friends. If you're here and you are watching, we'd like for you to drop a comment. Drop a comment in the chat. Let's know you're watching. Okay, let's know you're watching because this is really good. All right, Emilio and Sharon, they are dropping the gems. We are talking leadership. What's love got to do with it? And right now, Sharon just told us about communication. And she said it's not just about communicating, it's about effective communication. Effective communication. You want to come back and watch this and take your notes. And she's now telling us about control. And if you got that line, I like it when you. I like it when you. I like it when you. I just feel that if we ask ourselves the questions that Emilio told us to ask, is it helpful? Is it healthy? And then we sandwich it with, I like it when you. I like it when you. Maybe we finally have the answer to a lasting marriage right here. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back and Sharon will tell us more about the 4 C's.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World Institute, changing lives, one leader at a time.
Here we are with Emilio and Sharon and Emilio, and we are discussing leadership. What's love got to do with it? And Sharon gave us 2 of the 4 C's already, and she was about to give us the other 2. But I was wondering if Emilio wanted to say something about the control aspect and communication before we go to the other 2 C's. Did you want to just add anything into the control aspect and communication that we've already talked about?
Nothing. Communication. I always said that's the number one thing about when it comes to relationship in your marriage. Because if you're not able to talk to each other, it's going to have a breakdown from the beginning. And Sharon and I, we work on that quite a bit, and not always successful. We have issues every now and again. But we also know what's most important is, okay, communicating, are you listening? When she's saying something, am I listening? Or am I just waiting to respond to whatever, because I already got something in my mind made up, rather than listening for, like you said, listening for understanding. Control, yes, head of the household, that's my role. That doesn't mean that I have that control where what I say goes. That's the end of it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's about the influence in that role as being the head of the household, where that control comes into play.
Wow.
Be able to influence my wife, Shannon be able to influence me, and I will relinquish that control anytime. More than happy to, whenever it needs to be, because it's all about the situation. If you say she's saying something that's okay, because I'm listening, communication, and it's control, something that's controlling. I relinquishing that role to hear what she's saying and say, okay, we talking about an idea. You suggest this, of course, let's go with that particular idea. That's fine. Just it's about humility as well.
I was thinking the same thing, humility.
About humility as well. Just to be for
Wow.
myself to be humble, because a lot of times that's where we get caught up
Mm.
as men in general. I guess we get caught up in that. So I just got to be humble.
So the whole control thing stems from not being humble. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
wow. Oh wow. Otherwise, we just want to be influencers of our spouses and help them to become the best versions of who they are supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
And I want to go back to something Emilio said earlier about being a good leader. And if
Mm.
you are a leader, you have somebody following you, and that me as his wife, I don't have a problem following him because he's leading me well. He's gotten instructions from God, so he's leading me well. I think that's very important too. So should we get down to a situation where we got to make a decision and we are
Right.
not in agreement on that decision, ultimately, I'm going to go with his decision because he is I'm going back to the personalities again. I will make a decision and I may not give it as much thought as I should, right? But I know Emilio, he is going to he's very analytical. He's going to think it through. He's going to do the research. He's going to consider me. So I know those things about him. Those are facts I know about him, right? So I trust that final decision that's made is that he's going to not make it lightly. He's going to consider all the potential things that he needs to consider in making a good decision. So ultimately, as the head of our household, I would follow him.
Wow. 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 Thank you, Amelia, for that example that you're setting. And I like the way Sharon said it, and she just said it from the depth of her heart about the type of leadership and the type of leader that you are in the home, and how she knows that whatever decisions you're taking, you're just considering the good of the entire family, and that's just beautiful to hear. I understand that from my conversation with Sharon that you are a blended family.
Mhm. Yes,
Yes.
Tell us
yes.
a little more about that, and how has that been to you as a couple, being that blended family?
So I think that being a biological family can be hard. I think being a blended family adds another layer, can add another layer of difficulty to that equation.
Uh-huh.
So when I met Emilio, I had a son. He was 7 years old at the
Seven, yeah,
time.
7.
And we wanted to make sure that we were together and going to be together before I introduced Emilio to my son. So I feel like we if there was a book about how to do this thing on the beginning, the front end, I think we followed that book, what those
Mm.
guidelines were. And one thing that came up once we got married and got into our household together as a blended family is I had some experiences being from a blended family growing up
Growing up.
that were not necessarily the best experiences. And so I had a thought in my mind. I'm like, and I didn't know I had this thought until after the fact that I had this thought. My thought was, he can't possibly love my son the way that I love him. And so
Wow.
I didn't realize that I was thinking that way though in the moment, right? It's only after looking back on it, we learn from experiences. Look at it, we can learn some things. So I learned that after the fact. So how that showed up was when Emilio would try to discipline him, my thought was, well, he's not coming from a place of love. He doesn't love him like I love him, right? Because that was in my mind. I didn't know it at the time though, but I looking back, those times that I may not have allowed him the voice or allowed him to, or received rather, his thoughts about what should have been done with our oldest son, it came from that place of what my experiences had been in being part of a blended family. So,
No, go ahead.
okay.
Go.
So I think we should give
So
special
the
consideration.
past was affecting your mindset
Yes, that's where I was
and
going.
affecting your current relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate that?
How did I navigate that? Well, it took us a while to navigate it.
I like it.
We had
how you both keep looking at each other.
so we had some challenges, some hiccups along the way. I think probably, and by the way, I want to say this is very important. And this is something that's rare. We had the support of my oldest son's dad, because he was still in my son's life. And he and Emilio had conversations. This is rare. You don't hear this kind of stuff really on an everyday basis. So they had conversations about discipline, and he had, given Emilio the okay as our son's biological son to discipline him, biological father to discipline him. I was the one who was holding back on the discipline aspect of it. And so over time, we relocated to another city to be closer to my son's father. And in that time, we had challenges with, I think Emilio at that point had begun to assert himself more. And he'll talk more about that in just a second. Assert himself more with some of the things that he was observing in our little triad.
Yeah. I think the relationship that I had with his dad, that's like Sharon said, that was a good thing, because we spoke, all three of us, our son, dad, and myself. We all went out together and kind of hang out together. So he got to know me, I got to know him. That was my son, dad, and so that was important. But dad wasn't in our household. So, when it comes back to the household with Sharon, myself, and him, then and Sharon had a thought, like she said, that changed a little bit. And at times it caused me to kind of pull back, because I did not want to disrupt the household, because
right.
she would be upset. So a lot of times I didn't say anything. I just kind of observed and kept it to myself, because I did not want to upset Sharon and cause more problem within the household. And again, something I look back on now, and I think that was a mistake on my part. That, because I think we all wanted the same thing, the best for the household. And if you're not talking, you're not going to be heard. So right. And that was just something that I realized that that wasn't the best way to handle it at that time.
Wow. And what's the situation now, and what do you think somebody that might be going through the same situation, Emilio, with blended family situation and maybe divorce and remarriage, and what would you advise?
Wow. Well, I always go back to communication. Okay. Always share your feelings, share your thoughts.
No matter if it's going to hurt the feelings of the other person.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No matter. But don't share it in a harsh way, because of course you share it in a harsh way, that will disrupt. It's not healthy. will not help.
And not helpful. Yes, we got the key. Not healthy, not
So,
helpful. We
so
got the
right, so
key.
yes, right. So communicate, have that conversation, and establish, whoever the stepchild, try to establish a relationship with the child. Um,
Yes.
I think for me, I went in, I went into the relationship understanding for myself it was a package deal.
Mm.
Um, when Sharon and I met, we spoke for a long time. We dated. When I got married, when I proposed to Sharon, in my mind, I wasn't saying I was proposing to Sharon. Okay, I'm married and I'm getting involved with Sharon. And okay, I know your son is out there, but yeah, I don't have to really deal with him. That's Sharon's issue. No, I saw it as this was a package deal. So whatever, it was Sharon and our son. And I think when
Yes.
I put that in my heart, my head from the beginning, no matter what, I wasn't gonna walk away from this package deal because I didn't sign up to walk away.
Yes. You're throwing gems, Emilio. You're just throwing gems all over the. Did you wait? Did you all hear that? I did not sign up to walk away. That's one of the major keys. Recently, I was working with a couple, and I realized that one of the problems in the relationship is every time there's a challenge and it gets heated up, the woman will be like, "I am leaving. I am going away." So it had sown seeds of discord, so much so that there was another situation and she wasn't even thinking of going nowhere. And the man was like, "I know you, you are wicked, and I know you're going to go away." Oh, she was so upset.
Mm.
She was so upset. So when I was talking with her, I was like, can you just stop throwing seeds of going away?
Right.
I'm
Because
glad
if
you
you're
brought that up.
busy, if you're busy throwing seeds of going away, where do you find the time to throw seeds of let's make this work?
Let's make it
Right.
work. Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did have a moment of insanity. I just had a moment. It was a moment where I thought the solution to this is going to be for me and Emilio to separate.
Hmm.
Okay, because we just can't seem to agree on this.
Hmm.
Um, and Emilio's response to that moment of insanity that I had was,
It wasn't going anywhere.
Oh,
Wasn't going anywhere.
and
As it
so
was.
wow.
what I realized is that okay, he is committed. He's
Yes.
committed. Okay,
Yes.
he's
Yes.
committed.
Yes.
He's committed. He loves my oldest son, our son. I remember when my son got into some trouble and he went to a special school, like a boot camp type of school.
Mhm.
And it was a sacrifice. It was a sacrifice financially.
Wow.
Those places are not cheap. And it was a sacrifice of our time because we had to drive him some distance and be there by 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It means they had to
Wow.
leave the house about
Wow.
5:30, to get him there. So, I had to chip away at that recording I had in my head about blended families and he love him like I do. And I had to stop minimizing his role as an important equal in this marriage relationship when it
Right.
comes to
Right.
parenthood.
Right.
So
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, and this just touches my heart in a special way. And thank you so much, Emilio, for giving us the gift of you in this broadcast. We wouldn't have been able to just hear all of this if you were not here with us. I know my conversations have been with Sharon. I didn't get to meet you until the broadcast, but thank you so much for being here with us. Did we just walk away from those 4Cs?
Oh, well, walk right on
You
back.
know what? If you are watching us and you still want the other 2Cs, I want you to put in the comments 4Cs. Put it in the comment for me. Let's do it now. If you're watching and you are looking for the other two, I want you to put in the comments 4Cs. Okay? Put it in the comments and we'll be back with the other 2Cs. But if I should ask, like, um what tools, like must-have tools, do we need for an enjoyable, lasting relationship in the marriage? If you were to give us tools, what tools would you say are crucial, Sharon?
Being open to seeing another person's perspective,
Mm,
because we're very good at our own perspective. But I think being able to be open-minded enough to say that, okay, my thought process is one way of doing it,
mhm,
but there may be, there may be other ways of doing things. And so being open to the other person's perspective and their views on things, and trying to reach a compromise on something that's going to be a win-win for both parties, I
mhm,
think it's always a great thing to do.
mm. Emilio, the must-have tools.
Is intimacy a tool?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Intimacy. Is that
Like what? Like looking at your spouse in the eyes?
yes? Looking
What
at your
Sharon
spouse.
has been doing?
Yes, looking at your spouse in the eyes, holding hands, giving hugs, sharing with your spouse on a daily basis how much you love them, how much you appreciate them. It's a simple "I love you" every day. Sharon and I have a conversation on the phone every day. Before that phone conversation, at the end of the conversation, "I love you." There's times where it's said, and the other person may hang up already, and they and call back. So I'm sorry, I love you too.
Because
So,
you never know. Life is precious, and you never know if your spouse is going to make it home. So, I
Oh,
mean, you really want to make sure that your last conversation before you go to bed at night is something
mm,
that, it is a "I love you," because you
mm.
never know when.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, so intimacy, that's a good tool. I like that tool.
So are you feeling like telling each other I love you now?
Yes.
I see, I love
I
you.
love you too.
Oh my goodness. Thank you both for coming. Can we go now to the other two C's, Sharon, if
Yes.
you don't mind?
The other C is connection, which we kind of talked about that a little bit. We talked about intimacy because
Okay.
that's a physical connection.
Mm,
There's an emotional connection that I feel we have. We connect emotionally. I feel you, you feel me. We share in that bond with one another, an emotional connection, physical connection. Some people like to connect on an intellectual level. They want to be able to sit down with their spouse and have an in-depth philosophical conversation. They connect by having um, intellectual conversation. That's an intellectual connection. So
mhm,
physical, um, which would be the sex, you can connect. That's a physical way of connecting, then
mhm,
emotional connection.
mhm,
That's the third C. And the last C is cultivate. Our marriages cannot survive on autopilot, meaning that we have to do things to keep the passion alive,
mm.
to ignite that fire, make sure that flame does not go out. It continues to
Did
burn.
you say fire?
Yes.
Ooh, I
Flame.
love that word. Ignite the fire.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we need to cultivate, continue to cultivate means to work at, to improve, to enhance. So in our marriage relationship, we want to work at, enhance, improve upon, because over time we change, as we get to be older. So we want to be able to make sure that we're continuing to learn each other. And that's part of the
Oh.
whole cultivating the marriage relationship.
Mm, mm.
Mhm.
Emilio, did
And
you want to?
if you need a tune up, go see someone to help you guys,
Okay.
to kind of reignite things if you feel like it's kind of gotten bored.
Mhm.
Well, talking about going to see someone before I come back to Emilio, who's going to also tell us a little bit more about cultivating and connecting, because you talked about going to see someone. Tell us about Oasis of Serenity.
So I am the owner of Oasis of Serenity Counseling and Consulting, which was birthed in 2014 out of
Mhm,
a desire to help. My undergrad is in social work, my master's in professional counseling. I
mhm,
used to work for a social service agency in foster care, and I just couldn't understand why the parents couldn't get it together to get their kids, to work their case plan to get their kids back into their custody. And so that set me on a path to go back to school to learn more about addiction, mental illness, trauma, and things like that, that could help me better understand the job that I was doing. While in school, my emphasis was family therapy.
Okay.
And when graduated from getting my master's degree, I was going through the divorce in my first marriage and started going to grad school at that time. And while in school, I discovered that I did not have the best, had a loving mom, but didn't always have the best experiences in the family. And I have felt married to working with families since that time period, but that even goes back to my own upbringing, right? So I feel like the experiences we have in life equip us and prepare us for the things that God wants us to do. So whatever your challenge area is probably the area that God wants to use you, develop you in, so he can send you out there to help other people, to do the work, right? We're his mouth, hands, feet. So that's how Oasis of Serenity was birthed, because I felt like God was calling me to help families learn how to stay together. So started in 2014. We had the pandemic, and I was working for an agency. I was already doing Oasis of Serenity part-time. And Emilio said, hey, why don't you do your business full-time? You've been talking about it for the past 10 years. So now is 10 years. So now is a great time for you to do it, because now you're kind of in between jobs. And so 4 years ago is when through the support of him, is when I started doing Oasis of Serenity counseling full time. So what we do is we provide marriage counseling, coaching, workshop facilitations. We also do personal development coaching and trainings as well.
Wow,
so
this
we
is
help
beautiful.
individuals and couples.
Awesome. Tell us about couples determined to making marriage great. Yes.
Yes, thank you for your order. I appreciate it. Yes.
Okay. I thought I was going to have mine here before this day so I could brag. So it's okay. It's okay.
Last year, we joined some 15 other couples in doing a book called Couples Determined to Make Marriage Great. The visionary authors are James and Cynthia Green. They're out of Baltimore. It's a book for couples by couples, and each of the couples share a story of a challenge they had in marriage and how they overcame. Because we want to make sure that we got the message out there that there are great marriages out there. So the book talked about, you may go through things, however, if you have commitment, you're able to work through those things. So our chapter in the book is Knitted Together, but Not Perfect. And we talk more about our blended family and some things that happened with our oldest son, and how we were able to grow closer together through that difficulty, and really see each other for who we are. Because who you are really shows up in moments of difficulty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we were able to really see each other during that time period.
Wow.
And see the power of God and how he can keep you. He's a restorer, right?
Yes.
And when you're going through difficult times, God is he's available at the mention of his name. He's there. And so both of our faiths were strengthened as a result of what we went through. And it's all in the book.
Wow, beautiful. We're going to put the link in the chat, and you can order your book. We're going to put the website and everything in the chat, and you can order your book. And Sharon, you can find Sharon on LinkedIn, Facebook, and those social media spaces. Those two, I know of those two especially. You can you can get counseling and coaching and anything else I missed out, Sharon.
No. I do speaking as well, but
speaking engagement, leadership.
In what areas?
Marriage, personal development.
All right, so that's Coach Sharon Grant there that you can link up and get excellent services from. We are coming back to you, Emilio. Connection and cultivating. Did you want to speak into that a little bit? Connect and cultivate.
Good, just I think you. I don't know. What can I add? What can I add that Sharon? Look, sometimes to cultivate or to connect and cultivate, I think it's important to. There are times when you have to kind of go back to when you first met. When what was it like when you was dating? When everything felt like my sister, my lovely sister always used to tell Sharon those rose petal, what you say?
Check out those rose petals
Glasses,
glasses.
yes. See what's really going on. She used to tell her. So sometimes you have to go, and that's still cultivating and connection. And when that what you had at that time, when you're having struggles, take yourself back to those times with your partner,
Wow.
and that kind of will see. Okay, this is why we're married. This is why we are together right now.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those struggles that you're going through now, if you want to really work through that, that will kind of remind you of your why.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You just threw another one. The why. The why, the why, the why.
Right.
And I guess this is something that from the onset, even before you start thinking of this is the person I want to settle with, the why, the why. Oh, let me write that down. The why. Yes, yes. So we are actually wrapping up, and I really love your beautiful story. It's a story that depicts everything you said about not perfect but knitted together. Yes, not perfect but knit together, and this is so such valuable lessons we've been able to draw from your experiences of leadership in your home, and just how you've let the commitment speak, not just by saying I am committed to you, but like when Sharon had her moment of insanity, you were able to bring in that gadget of commitment and tell her, well, this not going to happen, and you and look at you both now, just being such a great blessing to all of us and the thousands of others that are going to watch this broadcast. And I have so many keys that I've taken from this broadcast, and looking at you both and some of the things that I know people talk about, the Black culture and Black love, like it's struggling love.
Right.
I don't know. Am I the only one that sees stuff and hears stuff? Sharon, what would you say about that? I mean, is that something you've seen? Is that a thing anywhere? Am I
That
just
people are
making up stuff?
struggling.
Like Black love struggles, like
Yeah.
it's like a stereotype of Black love, like Black people struggle in their marriages because Black love is struggling love, kind of. You haven't heard it?
I have heard that, yeah, but I don't know if I necessarily buy into it. We can, as a people, have a great marriage. And
Yes.
what that may mean is how you saw mom and them, dad and them do it, right? You may not need to do it that same way.
Right.
Right. So if you grew up in a home and you saw some things, you observed some things, you experienced some things, you're going to come to a fork in the road and you're going to say, hey, am I going to hold on to this dysfunctional belief or value or this experience I had? Or am I going to now let it go because it's no longer serving me in this relationship? We all come to that place. We have to make that decision. And so we learn by doing. When you know better, you do better. Right. Surround yourself with people who are positive, who are married, who are doing well in their marriage, who are healthy, and let them mentor you in your marriage. Go seek out marriage counseling from your church. If you're a person of faith, seek out someone like myself, marriage coach, licensed therapist. But we don't really have an excuse anymore for not having good or great marriages, because there are people doing it. There are people like that look like us that are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it. We got to connect ourselves with them. Connection is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Who are
Connection
you
is
connected
everything.
to?
Right. Who you're connected to,
you
because
connected?
there are people doing it. So
Right.
we don't have excuses no more, because there are people doing it, and we can surround ourselves with those people and learn from them. Wow.
And we are stronger together. We are stronger together.
Together. Yes.
Stronger
Stronger
together.
together.
We are almost at the end of this broadcast right now, and I'm just thinking, this is not my favorite time of the show, because then I have to let you go. I think I have had so much fun just having you both and interviewing with you, and you sharing those deep experiences and valuable insights with our audiences. There are many people that are going to watch this just because they saw Emilio and Sharon in the broadcast. What would be your final words to maybe a couple that's struggling, the leadership in the home and stuff? They're like struggling, and or maybe they're not struggling, but they're like, these two, I think I need what they have. What would be your last words to our audiences? I'll start with Emilio.
Oh. LOVE spells love. Make sure you show your partner that love where it comes from your heart, not fake, not made up. Just share that, and share it in a way that this is how you yourself want to have them feel that love. And if you can see yourself and love yourself, you'll be able to share that and give that to your partner as well, despite everything, because there was a commitment that you made. And when you made that commitment to life, do you part. Take it back there. Think about why you're there, and stick with that commitment. And I said that to Sharon when she was going through a point of insanity, and I didn't say it jokingly. I didn't say it. I wasn't playing, because, like she said, it's both of our second time. So we went through it once already before, and we know, no, this is it. This is it. I wasn't going anywhere, and she understands that, and she will always understand that, because
Wow.
I love her daily. So, love.
Thank you, Sharon.
Mine would be surround yourself with people who honor, respect, cherish the covenant of marriage. We have to make sure we have people in our ear that are going to encourage us and affirm us in our marriage commitment. We don't need people in our ears that are not in favor of the longevity of marriage, despite you may be having a difficult season. Okay, seasons are temporary. They change. We have fall, summer, spring, winter. Seasons in your marriage change. So you don't want to make a long-term decision off of something that's temporary.
Wow.
Yeah. So you want to remain committed to the covenant agreement that binds the two of you together. You want to remain committed to that.
Wow. Surround yourself with people who believe that it works.
Yes.
And it can work. And we'll see you next time.
For your corporate and personal needs.
Leaders World